అనేది మనం గత నెలలో చూసాము. విద్వేషపూరితమైన ప్రసంగాలు సాగినాయి. దీని మీద అసలు వాస్తవం ఏంటి, ఈ చిత్రకథలో ఏం వాస్తవం ఉంది, దాని రాజకీయ పార్టీలు కేవలం లబ్ధి కోసమే దీన్ని వాడుకున్నాయా, వాస్తవం ఉందా అనే దాని మీద మనము ప్రసంగించాల్సిందిగా మనందరికి తెలియజేయాల్సిందిగా చర్యన్ గారిని మెఫీ ఆహ్వానించింది. వారికి మరోసారి మెఫీ తరఫున ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నా. ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి మన ఇండియన్ జర్నలిస్ట్ యూనియన్ అధ్యక్షులు ప్రజాపక్షం సంపాదకులు కె శ్రీనివాసరెడ్డి గారు అధ్యక్షత వహిస్తారు. ఇప్పుడు మొదట మన టీయూడబ్ల్యూజే ప్రధాన కార్యదర్శి విరాతల్లి గారిని వారికి బొకే ఇచ్చి స్వాగతం పలకాల్సిందిగా కోరుతున్నాం. Now I request Comrade Srinivas Reddy Garu to conduct the program.
అందరికీ ఆహ్వానం. నరేందర్ రెడ్డి గారు చెప్పినట్లు మీడియా ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఫౌండేషన్ ఇండియా ఏర్పాటు చేసి చాలా కాలమైంది. మధ్యలో ఎక్కువ కాలం వర్కింగ్ జర్నలిస్టులకి వివిధ ప్రాంతాల్లో రెఫరెషర్ కోర్స్, 1 డే రెఫరెషర్ కోర్సెస్, టాపికల్ కాంటెంపరీ ఇష్యూస్ మీద సెమినార్స్ ఏర్పాటు చేయడం. ఫోన్ ఇది రావటం ఓకే రైట్ ఏర్పాటు చేయటం జరిగింది. ఇటీవలనే బోర్డ్ ఆఫ్ డైరెక్టర్స్ మీటింగ్ అమర్ దేవులపల్లి ట్రస్టీ, బోర్డు మెంబర్, ఈజ్ ఎ ట్రస్టీ, నేను చైర్మన్గా ఉన్నాను. సీనియర్ జర్నలిస్ట్ పలువురు డైరెక్టర్లుగా ఉన్నారు ఈ సంస్థకి. అందులో భాగంగా నెలసరి ప్రతి నెల తప్పనిసరిగా ఒక ఇష్యూ మీద కార్యక్రమాన్ని నిర్వహించాలని నిర్ణయించిన క్రమంలో ఇవాళ కేరళ స్టోరీ మీద సీనియర్ జర్నలిస్టు వికే చర్యన్ని ఆహ్వానించటం జరిగింది. మిత్రుడు చెప్పినట్లు ఒక కాంట్రవర్షియల్ ఇష్యూ బికాజ్ కేరళ రాష్ట్రానికి చెందిన వివిధ ప్రాంతాలకు చెందిన 3 యువతుల్ని ఇందులో, వివిధ ప్రాంతాలకు చెందిన కేరళ ప్రాంతాలకు చెందిన 3 యువతుల్ని ఇందులో మెయిన్ స్టోరీగా చూపించారు. అందులో శాలిని అనే అమ్మాయి, హిందూ అమ్మాయి, యంగ్ లేడీని అబ్డక్ట్ చేసి ఇస్లామికి మతాన్ని మార్చి ఫోర్సబుల్గా ఐఎస్ఐలో చేర్చి టెర్రరిస్ట్గా రూపొందించి ఇరాన్, సిరియాకు పంపించారని చెప్పి నేపథ్యం. ఇదే ముస్లింలనే ఎందుకు చేస్తున్నారని చెప్పటము ఒక ఎత్తు అయితే, 32,000 మంది 32,000 ఆఫ్ యంగ్ ఉమెన్ అబ్స్కాండెడ్ ఫ్రమ్ ది స్టేట్ ఆఫ్ కేరళ. 32,000 మంది అబ్స్కాండ్ అయిపోయారనేది చాలా పెద్ద ప్రచారం కల్పించి ఇంతటి ఘోరం జరుగుతున్న ఆ రాష్ట్రంలో ఏం జరుగుతుంది అని చెప్పటమే ప్రధానమైన అంశంగా కనిపించింది. ఇది వద్దు అని కేరళ ప్రభుత్వం మతతత్వాన్ని రెచ్చగొడుతుంది అని కేరళ ప్రభుత్వం భావిస్తే దాన్ని బ్యాన్ చేయాలంటే కోర్టు చెప్పింది సెన్సార్ బోర్డు దగ్గరికి వెళ్ళిరండి అని చెప్పింది. ఆ తర్వాత తమిళనాడు గవర్నమెంటు ఎగ్జిబిటర్స్ రిఫ్యూజ్ టు షో ప్లే ది సినిమా ఇన్ దేర్ థియేటర్స్. లా అండ్ ఆర్డర్ వస్తుంది కాబట్టి మేము ఇది చేశామని చెప్పారు. బెంగాల్ గవర్నమెంటు సుప్రీంకోర్టుకు వెళ్ళింది, ఇట్ విల్ క్రియేట్ ఏ లా అండ్ ఆర్డర్ ప్రాబ్లం అని చెప్పి. అప్పుడు ప్రొడ్యూసర్స్ని అడిగారు, ఏమిటి ఈ కథ? నెంబర్ 1. నెంబర్ 2, ఇది యాక్చువల్గా జరిగిందా లేక మామూలుగా ఒక ఫిక్షన్ మాదిరిగా తీశారా? వాస్తవాలు ఏమున్నాయి మీ దగ్గర అని అడిగితే అల్టిమేట్లీ దే సెడ్ ఇట్స్ ఏ ఫిక్షన్, నాట్ రియాలిటీ. వాస్తవం కాదు. 32,000 మంది యువతులు కేరళ రాష్ట్రం నుంచి తప్పించుకుపోయారు, అబ్డక్ట్ అయ్యారు అని చెప్పారే, దానికి ఆధారం ఏమన్నా ఉందా అని అడిగారు. ఆధారం ఏమీ లేదని చెప్పారు. దెన్ ఆ పిటిషన్ మీద సుప్రీంకోర్టు ఏం చెప్పిందంటే, ప్రొడ్యూసర్స్ submission and clarified that we will play in the cinema, it's a disclaimer, fictionalized account of events we have produced, it's a fiction with no authentic data back the 32,000 women have missed, just for fiction. కేరళలో చూపించటానికి ముందే చెప్పకపోవటానికి కారణం ఇది పొలిటికల్ ఆస్పెక్ట్లో ఉంది అన్న భావన అందరిలో. నిజానికి మరి దేశంలో యువతులు అబ్డక్ట్ కావటం లేదా అంటే అవుతున్నారు. మన భారతదేశంలో నేషనల్ క్రైమ్ రిపోర్టింగ్ బ్యూరో లెక్కల ప్రకారంగా, వారి దగ్గర ఉన్న తాజా లెక్కలు ప్రకారంగా సంవత్సరానికి దాదాపు 50 లక్షల మిస్సింగ్ కేసెస్ వస్తున్నాయి. అందులో మోర్ దెన్ 2/3 మహిళల మిస్సింగ్, చిల్డ్రన్ మిస్సింగ్ ఉన్నాయి. ఆ రకంగా చూసినా ది ఫస్ట్ స్టేట్ అబ్డక్షన్లో, ఉమెన్ అబ్డక్షన్లో ఫస్ట్ స్టేట్ ఈజ్ మహారాష్ట్ర. 3,46,000 మంది అబ్డక్ట్ అయ్యారు. రెండవ స్టేటు బెంగాల్, వెస్ట్ బెంగాల్, 2,62,000 మంది అబ్డక్ట్ అయ్యారు. మూడవ స్టేటు మధ్యప్రదేశ్, 1,00,000 చిల్లర. ది స్టేట్ ఆఫ్ కేరళ ఈజ్ ఆల్మోస్ట్ ఇట్ విల్ కమ్ 10, 11, 12 స్టేజ్లో ఉంటుంది. తర్వాత వాళ్ళని గుర్తింపు చేసి మళ్ళీ తీసుకురావటంలో, ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళారు అని ఇన్వెస్టిగేషన్స్ చేసి పట్టుకురావటంలో నేషనల్ యావరేజ్ ఈజ్ 50%. 50% మందినే ట్రేస్ చేయగలుగుతున్నారు. బట్ కేరళ రేట్ ఈజ్ 86%. Tracing the women, children and missing people, 86%. Whereas Punjab is 16%. Delhi metropolitan city ga chuskunte the highest abductions. Every 100 people have been abducted, women particularly. Trace of abduction 4%. అందువల్ల ఇది నిజానికి ఆ సినిమా చూస్తే చాలామంది ఇక్కడ చూసే అవకాశం దొరకలేదు. నెట్ఫ్లిక్స్లో ఇవాళ నుంచి పెడతారేమో. మిత్రులు చెప్పింది ఆ సన్నివేశాలు చూస్తే చాలా భయంకరంగా ఉంటాయి. రేపు, మర్డరు, వీటికి సంబంధించిన సన్నివేశాలు చాలా ఇదిగా ఉంటాయి. ఇది మనసులను గాయపరిచే రకంగా ఉంటుంది అన్న భావాలు చాలా వచ్చాయి. ఇక రెండవది, మరి వీఆర్ జర్నలిస్ట్, భావ ప్రకటన స్వేచ్ఛ ఉండాలా ఉండకూడదా? ఎస్, వీఆర్ ఫర్ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్. అది లా అండ్ ఆర్డర్గా వస్తే ఎక్కడైనా ఏదైనా చేసుకోవచ్చు, కానీ బ్యాన్ అనేది ఎనీ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ మంచిది కాదు. ఫ్రీడమ్ ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ ఇవాళ ఇట్లాగా వచ్చింది కాబట్టి వీఆర్ డిస్కసింగ్ వాట్ ఈజ్ వాట్ ఈజ్ ట్రూత్, వాట్ ఈజ్ ఫాల్స్. అందువల్ల వీటన్నింటికి యోచించటానికి ఈ పూర్వరంగంలోనే మీడియా ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఫౌండేషన్ ఈ చర్చతో కార్యక్రమాన్ని ప్రారంభిస్తుంది. భావాలు ఏవైనా కావచ్చు. వాట్ ఈజ్ ట్రూత్, వాస్తవం. నేను అవాస్తవం ఇవాళ సినిమాలలో రేప్ అండ్ రిలీజనేగా డబ్బులు చేసుకోవటానికి ఇంకో అమ్మాయి, అందమైన అమ్మాయిని పెడితే డబ్బులు బాగా వస్తాయి. ఈ రకమైనటువంటి సిచ్యువేషన్లో ఏమిటి ఆలోచన పరులు, దోస్ వారు సొసైటీ ఏమిటి అన్న భావాలు చర్చించుకోవటానికి అవకాశం కలిగిస్తుందని భావించాం. అగైన్ on behalf of the Media Education Foundation, I hearty welcome to Mr. Cherian. I would like to start your expression and speech.
Thank you. I've made a PowerPoint presentation so that I'll also be not rambling, but to the point. And my coming here makes some little more addition to the facts already available. That's my aim in making this thing. Yeah. Right off. This is किधर है? You have to on it. On करना नहीं है ना? नहीं. एक मिनट वस्ता ओके ओके Thanks and good morning to all of you. I am also a journalist of 80s vintage. So we were just generally discussing. I am one among you, except that on this film and all this subject, I've just little gone little deeper because I wrote this book on Indian Film Society movement, its history. I was asked to revise it by a new publisher this year. I just finished it. Then this Kerala story happened, and so I am going to delve into why such Kerala stories are happening, not just analyze the film as our senior colleagues have explained about it. So I will say that there is a general trend of emergence of propaganda films in India now, very clear propaganda films. That's what Kerala story indicates. Kashmir story, Kashmir file, if somebody thought was aberration, with Kerala story and the coming Delhi files, which is Vivek Agnihotri is supposed to be making on Delhi riots, you know, this propaganda film series is going to happen, that too before the elections. So that's why I've taken this as the emergence of propaganda films in India in a big way. So let's come to this, the subject which provoked it. The Kerala story, it's supposed to be, they claimed it is supposed to be on real events. I'm a Delhi Keralite. All I can say is that every family, every second family in Kerala has somebody working in the Gulf. Some people go to, you know, madrasas, some people go to church, some people go to temple. I don't think it makes a difference there. And Keralites, all the three, you know, to understand Kerala story, you must understand the population pattern of Kerala. It's 45% minorities, which is Muslims and Christians together. Of course, the Muslims dominate with about 24%. So, and none of these religions came to Kerala through aggressive raids. It came through the spice route. So people have been living there for centuries, cohabiting centuries without any rancor. Because if you find the first mosque of India in Kranganur, where the Musri sport was there, I visited last time, and there just to see how the mosque is. It's being renovated and all. So that's the history, the social history of and the religious history of Kerala. In fact, we have a joke that one of the kings in medieval ages, he got tired of what is happening in Kerala, and he got into one of the ships and went to Oman. His khabar, he became a Muslim. Because we keep joking, he is the first Gulf wala from Kerala. Our own king, you know, is King Cheraman Perumal. So that's a kind of thing, link Kerala has with Gulf. I'm sure the Hyderabadis will understand that because you have the link with Turkey, I'm told, because of the Nizam rule. So the same way. So there is no rancor, nothing. As far as the local population is concerned. Of course, there is a build-up, which is naturally, we are seeing it. And in Kerala, girls being lured and all. Let me come to one point which I was involved. I asked, when this love jihad build-up was going on, I asked a friend of mine from Kerala, an MP, to ask a direct question about love jihad in Kerala sometime back. I think before COVID it happened. There was a reply from Home Ministry saying that love jihad as a concept doesn't exist as far as official records are concerned. There's no such case in Kerala, and it's a build-up, they've clearly said. So that's the background to it. When you say lured and taken away and become Muslims and all, of course, you know, the present generation and the thing doesn't bother about religion or caste when it comes to marriage. I myself is married to, I was born in a Christian family, I'm not a practicing Christian. I was married to a Hindu. My kids, I don't know what is their religion even today. They are in their 30s. So that's my background. And I never converted anybody into Christianity or my own religion. So I'm an irreligious person. I'm not a I'll say agnostic, not anti-God and everything. If everybody has the freedom to believe in God, and I think they must be there. So that's about my own religious aspect of it. So the fact that this film, when it went to the court and court questioned it, the 32,000 came to 3. That itself shows it is what the film critic says. It's a lengthy WhatsApp forward. All my friends, in fact, friends like Saibal Chatterjee debunked the film. He said it's without common sense, without what Naved Lapid, the International Film Festival jury chairman, said about Kashmir Files. The same thing being said about this film, Kerala film, by the film critics. The new word is lengthy WhatsApp, a film as a lengthy WhatsApp forward. That's what most of them wrote. So I leave that to this. But how did it become an issue, or we all notice it? It's because certain governments ruled by BJP, certain, in the states like Madhya Pradesh and UP, they give entertainment tax free to promote it. Then we never expected Prime Minister to take note of a film in the election campaign. He did that, but everybody was surprised. I asked, when it was announced, I asked many people in Kerala. They said, look, we don't bother about it. In fact, I asked our friends in CM's office. I said, look, this is coming, you must do something. He said, look, nobody is going to see it in Kerala, so why should we bother? If somebody else is seeing, let them see it. That's the attitude there. Because it doesn't affect Kerala in any which way. So why should Keralites bother about it? That was their argument. I think it's a good argument. But the only thing I kept saying is that why should anybody take a state's name for it? Because tomorrow somebody comes and say something bad happened here and it's a Telangana story. You're defaming a state which no filmmaker, no creative person has the role. You can make any other name. That is the only thing. But then if you go to court with it, it has its own issues. So they said, why give unnecessary publicity to these fellows? So that is why they didn't do, Kerala government didn't do anything about this film. They just ignored it. And I think in Kerala, most of the people also ignored it. The Tamil Nadu, it become, the theatre and other people, they themselves said that we don't want such films here. But it's, in a way, Supreme Court did the right thing. Yes, there is freedom of expression in this country so far, and we must go by that. So, but at the end of it, what does it indicate? It indicates that there is a new genre of film coming in India and is getting established. It's a propaganda films. And propaganda films is as a separate genre was noticed from time immemorial. The film is, the Lumiere brothers discovered the technology and the film in 1895. 98 onwards, I'll come to little history of propaganda films. Before that, why these propaganda films are being promoted by central government, you must know that. There's a drastic change in film policies in the government of India, which very few people have noticed. We had a Nehruvian policy which was running till 2014, very clearly Nehruvian policy in films. In fact, my book on Film Society movement is all about that. Nehru and Mrs. Gandhi created institutions to promote films and professionalize it, with institutions like Film Institute to National Film Development Corporation to Children's Film Society, which was based in Hyderabad, so all of it together. So that's what government was actively involved in promoting films of a good genre, not commercial films. And in fact, Indian New Wave films, which made India a big figure in the world of films, was thanks to this active support of the government. They made social issues to the fore. You have Shambanigal talking about the countryside, Satyajit Ray, lot many filmmakers from Hyderabad, Chennai, Kerala, Kannada, all of them. You know, it was in the 70s to, I'll say 90s, such films dominated the national awards and international awards and everything. But 2014 onwards, after BJP government took over the center, I'm not being political, it's a fact, it's a policy which they are changing. They changed totally. They looked at films as a different thing. And what they realized that these institutions, which Nehruvian institutions, are a big issue for them. So what they did is, you know, last 2 years, the merger was going on. The institutions, including National Film Archive, was merged with NFDC, which is a corporation, which was a loss-making corporation. And NFDC was to be going to Bureau of Financial Reconstruction for, you know, devolving it. But then it was merged with other things, including film division, which did a lot of good work so far. In 70 years, they did a lot of good work as development communicators. In fact, there is a book by a Cambridge scholar on film division, how films can be used for development communication. And this whole thing of development communication was also a Nehruvian idea, that developments taking place has to be communicated, people has to be made aware of things, situations, not just governmental way, but critically also. So you should have heard, some of you should have heard about a filmmaker called Sukhram. Sorry, not Sukhram. Sukhdev. Sorry, Sukhdev was Sukhdev. He made a film when India gained 25 years of independence. The film was done by film division. It was critical of the government, that government has not done enough. That is the thing. But it was acclaimed widely across the world. Because India is not a banana republic. We look at ourselves critically also. So that is the message. That is the history of some of the institutions which Nehru created. And all of it is now a governmental arm under a corporation, and which gets annual grant from the government for its sustenance. So you can imagine what is happening there. And now comes the propaganda films. And most of it, all these crass propaganda films are the Sangha Parivar philosophy being pushed into the mainstream of filmmaking and the mainstream society, and we are all discussing it. And there is a new crop of filmmakers. Like nobody has heard about Vivek Bihoti earlier, nobody has heard about Sudipta Sen earlier. They're all new, you know, they're from the new types. And let's go to the history of the propaganda films. It's an interesting genre of films. In fact, this started with Boer War in South Africa. British started doing it because they realized the film had a lot of mass following. You know, I'm in Hyderabad, which has Damoji Film City. I don't need to talk about influence of films. So films had a lot of influence because the new medium, technology, tech-savvy medium. So they made this for any war. If you see First World War and Second World War, there are a lot of propaganda films has come up. And both for political and military interests. And they wanted creating consent and rejection of real or imagined enemy, because that's a way to brainwash people easily. And a forceful voice for independent critics, you know, positively a forceful voice for independent critics of contemporary events. So, and going that, it's 3 years after the film as a medium came, this genre also happened. People began to use films. But the Romanian independent, that first film was also, you know, altering history, by the leftists. Both, it's very curious, both the rightists and leftists both used film as a medium for their own their own propagandas. For Birth of a Nation by in USA, this is one of the most racial movies, but it is there as it clearly says the white what you call the white propaganda about black women as rapists and criminals and all. That is what it was enhancing. Of course, the First World War propaganda was there, but by then, First World War, the Soviet Union happened. And I'm sure most of you have heard about the film called Battleship Potemkin of Sergei Eisenstein, which was one of the best propaganda films of the Soviet era. And also it was one of the beautifully made film which introduced new editing techniques and new storytelling techniques in that film. Then the Nazi filmmakers began to come in. This Homecoming, it was about Germans settled in Poland and Czechoslovakia, essentially saying that they are in bad shape and Germany needs to intervene. Second World War is supposed to be the golden age of propaganda films. So of course Hitler was topmost in it, and of course it started with the hate films on Jews. Then, as you say that the Jews were like bad people, barbarians for the fascists or Nazi people. And this lady Leni Riefenstahl, I was really surprised. She died in 2001 at the age of 2003 at the age of 101. So she was alive, and she is the master filmmaker of propaganda film. Well, I've seen it in Max Muller-Baumann in 80s. The Germans still show it as an example of how good propaganda works, because she created that filmy thing, build up about Nazi politics and Nazi party. And of course she claimed that she didn't know that the concentration camp exists later after the war, and she was not put on trial because she was a professional doing a job. Of course, World War, it's not only fascists. Americans also was doing their bit in films. And most films have put all the Soviet films on YouTube. You can see it free. There's a huge lot of films from Second World War onwards. The Ballad of Soldier, Cranes Are Flying, beautifully made. And it's again anti-fascist films, one can say. It's available on YouTube. Anybody can go there and see it. The British and India, the Second World War, so British showing the newsreels in India about updating. There's no television, newspapers were with few. So all the cities, I think, newsreels were shown about the progress of the war. And of course, if you know film history, that propaganda period also produced the greatest of films called Great Dictator of Charlie Chaplin, which was against war, against fascism. It was not for US or anybody, but it is the most humane document even today in the history of films. When, of course, Cold War era happened after Second World War, this is also a part of the propaganda films. I think most of the English channels show this film called Guilty by Suspicion, because there was an effort by the American administration to weed out the leftists from Hollywood. So a lot of people were arrested, trialed, and Chaplin himself left Hollywood and went to Switzerland. He died there. But Eastern Bloc was equally strong. Soviets, Lenin identified film as the biggest mass medium, and he encouraged films in the Soviet bloc. So the result was like socialist realists realism is this films. They propagated it. It is widely made available across the world. Indians, especially the Indian film societies, were the biggest beneficiary of that, because they could write a letter to any of the embassies and get a film from them. And of course, it produced very good filmmakers also from especially from the Eastern Bloc, Eastern European countries, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and all. They are still there making films. So, because they had funding from the government, they were free to do within the limits. And there is a joke about one filmmaker called Andrei Tarkovsky. He made films in Soviet Union, and it was such philosophical films that none of this Communist Party people understood what it is. Though some of them had comments against Communist Party and all. So they allowed it to go. Finally, of course, he immigrated to Europe just before Perestroika and Glasnost, and he made few films there also. These blocks had their own, kind of propaganda films, but there were creative people doing their own kind of films also. Let's come to what is happening in India those days, in the independent India. It is clearly from the start Nehruvian policy. SK Patil Committee of 1951, they even wanted the production of films to be taken over by the government. I'm told there was a bill introduced in Rajya Sabha, but with lot of protests, it was withdrawn by Nehru. Nehru is somebody who believed in persuasion and implanting new ideas. So he had a big film seminar in 1955 in Delhi, and he laid down the rules. I said, look, melodrama is fine, commercialism is fine, but you need to implant certain good values in people. You must use people, and you must use good novels, literature, poems, creative artists into the films. That was his advice, and he created institutions like FTI, Film Finance Corporation, all of it to take it forward. And also introduced national awards, and they said it is for meaningful films to encourage. And International Film Festival was flagged down in 1952. It was the first international film festival in Asia those days. So there is a big effort by the government to promote good films. And the result was by end of 60s, you had new wave films, making waves across India, across the world, getting recognitions not only for Satyajit Ray, for others also in international film festivals. And a group of professionals from FTI. You have the best of cameramen, the best of technicians. Most of them are, if you say, they were FTI educated people, whether it is in South or in Hindi or any regional languages. But of course, Government of India has its own propaganda machinery. It is essentially driven by Film Division Films. I remember as a college boy seeing, before any film, you had the 10-minute, documentary, which is a must, and newsreels. So, and we all used to, make fun of it, So that is there, but that is also a deliberate attempt by the Nehruvian policies to educate people. Whether we like it or not, it runs through us. And then the SITE experiment, the first satellite television experiment in 70s during emergency, that's also for education. It is using films as education tool for education. That therein say it's propaganda, using films as an education tool. In fact, family planning, in fact, for films of family planning, I was told the British documentary expert is the doyen of British documentary in 40s and 50s. John Grierson was invited to India and asked to look at what we are doing and create and make suggestions. So that's the kind of effort they did. Of course, there was a lady called Mary Sutton from British Film Institute coming to India from 1955 onwards. And she's behind many of these institutions and many of these things happening. See, the documentary, otherwise, in India, now grew to win an Oscar this year. Just realize that, there's a lot of effort happening in the government, but there is also people getting excited about this genre of films. So that's how a documentary gets into Oscar. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. There is a background to all of it. Of course, Satyajit Ray and others, they were working parallel in the other side. And the whole effort was to make an Indian idiom in world films, which, earlier was like a song and dance kind of thing, what you call Bollywood. Apart from that, there was a lot of political ideological films, mostly by the left, from Abbas, Datika Lal, 42, to now. There are a lot of left filmmakers who talked about, but basically they were talking about poverty and social issues and others. Benigal films in the beginning are the ones, Angur and all. Nobody can, ignore them. So is Benigal did a film on Amul called Manthan. It was produced by the Amul cooperatives. And also the Dravida Kazhagam movement, Karunanidhi, MGR, Jayalalitha, of course, Andhra had its own NTR coming into films, but he came into films in a later stage, in a different thing. Chiranjeevi, he became a Mandri, and Hindi films, very few people got into films. Sanjay Dutt was somebody who was practicing professional, and he won elections and came in. Films as a medium was seen as a liberal space, because you need to, if you make, there's a big investment, you need to recoup it, then you need to get maximum number of people to the studio, to the theaters. So you cannot make, hate films. You cannot say that this is only for this. Then you need support of the government, like entertainment tax and all these things. That's why films remain an open space for liberal people to make their work. But of course, this is being a Delhi media person and communication person for 43 years, this is my input from speaking to many of them. Like, the Sangha Parivar people feels that this is a done of liberals and leftists, the film field, because they discount the fact that you need to keep this space open. You need to get maximum people to the theaters, then only you will recoup the money. And they didn't have any place for it. They're kind of people. They went out 2014 onwards, they have been trying to put people, censor chief in the initial first day, he was a disaster. Even they couldn't take his kind of attitude. So, and encouraging people like Anupam Kher. Suddenly you find Anupam Kher is there everywhere. Priyadarshan is there in all the committees. So they began to push their own people into the whole thing, which of course Congress, I'll say, they could have done some, but it is not blatant. They didn't want their people as affiliated to them. They took a lot of liberal people to the committees and making. Of course, their own people they were there. It is not denying the fact that Congress was all or Nehruvian policies implementation was all 100% correct. No. And national awards to jury awards, it is all political picks now. This Kerala story producer, Mr. Shah, was the last national award jury chairman. He is a producer of this thing. Nowhere, I think very few producers become chairman of the jury. He was a producer. I inquired into his qualifications. He was a small theatre man in Ahmedabad before that. Then he went to Bombay and started making films. So the kind of picks which they do. And now he comes out with Kerala story. because he emboldened, he knows that he has support, political backing. And film institutions, like they wanted to close down FTI and SRFTI, which is owned by the central government, but some other they desisted. Instead, they merged all other institutions, which are loss-making organization called NFDC. The whole thing, the whole effort is to encourage pro-RSS films. The RSS ideology has to move forward. It's essentially all very strong political ideologies did it, whether it is communist or fascist now or RSS people. So this I will call it, there is a clear emergence of propaganda films in India now, thanks to this philosophy of RSS. You will find more Kerala stories wherever there is. They can have a story like Kerala story or the Kashmir file. It will come. It's coming. Delhi Files is coming. I don't know before elections what all they are planning. And all other institutions which supposed to check all these things, all corporatized and they have been silenced. In fact, the merger of film institutions for better control of the central government, because if you are giving grant to NFDC, they will do what the government wants. They don't have any independent this thing. They're not audited by parliament. It's audited by the ministry. And the biggest sufferer is the National Film Heritage Mission, which was, I think Arun Jaitley as Information Minister announced 500 crores for digitizing the film heritage. Because the celluloid is very difficult to keep. So you digitize it and then go about it, keeping it in the archive and other places. So that, I think, I don't know what happens to it in future. And it's clearly encouraging a new genre of propaganda films and discarding the old. Of course, it's a two-pronged approach in liberal domination, campaigned by frontal organizations, Karnisana. You find film Padma was released, there's a big uproar. Film Pathan, there's an uproar. So, and discrediting people. There is this common talk that Bollywood is dominated by Khans. I'm not saying the Muslims, Khans. So you need to do something about it. So this kind of thing happening. And you have drug raids. Everybody thought that will become a routine thing, but thanks to what happened in Shah Rukh Khan's son's case, the officer himself is in CBI net now. So that's the kind of thing. And of course encouraging, and you find the chairman, the policy decision people from censor board is President Joshi. He's sitting there, he's advising them, he's an industry man. He's more, I think, amiable. He knows how to handle people, so you don't find big news like the earlier one. And FTI chairman was, low-level, small film wala actor, who his only claim was he acted in the Ramayana series. And there's a big uproar about it. And National Award jury, the same thing. Vipul Shah was the thing. If you, it's everything is online these days. If you look up the national jury, what was before 2014 and what is after, you'll know the kind of people who are jury members. It's hardly anybody connected with films. It's all, now that film director of film festival is with NFDC, for the national awards, the ministry has constituted a separate group in the ministry. My book, Malayalam book is, I went to give there, so I know what has happened. So the same set of people in the film festival directorate sitting there, and they have been made part of the ministry, but they are still in Siri Fort sitting there and they have been asked to vet all these things, which means that national awards will be political. It is not going to be like old days that, you entrust a senior journalist or a senior literary figure to look at the books and they pick things. No. They have all been selected. They will identify people whom to give and all. And it's clearly encouraging new group of people to propagate especially ideological people. And it all leads to crass propaganda films. Of course, you have Kashmir Files making big waves, and Kerala Story, Delhi File is coming. It's already being made by Vivek Agnihotri about 2020 riots. And they say that there is in-film ideology implants, like in RRR and KGF. I have not seen the film, so I am not commenting on it. And the biggest encouragement to any filmmaker is the entertainment tax waiver, which is happening for such films. And of course, you will find Kashmir Files getting an award, for sure. so there is no going back. The new crop of filmmakers are coming in. Impact of all these things, Kerala Story, Kashmir Story and everything, the loss of credibility of Indian film sector at first. And you heard the IFI, the Film Festival Chairman's comments about Kashmir. How can a major film, film festival, international film festival like India do this? That is the question. They so far rated Indian film festivals and its awards as a big thing. From now onwards, it won't be treated. That's what he was trying to tell us. If you put films like Kashmir Files in the competition, or even show there, which means that you are getting into a different space altogether, not in the creative space. Oscar, everybody knows it's more an industry act than creative this thing. So Oscar will continue because they want Indians to be there, up and running. Films generally, they say, is basically films reach out to people, various sections, to try to portray those things. Films, especially the feature films. If you look across the globe, that's the thing. And it is not meant to be, whenever people have tried to use it as a divisive thing, it didn't sustain for long. That's the history of the film field itself. So what happens is that most of these films, if you have divisive film, it is a mediocres. People who want to peddle their own kind of ideology, people who doesn't have open mind, people who doesn't believe in freedom of speech, they will all come in. In fact, the biggest giveaway from this filmmaker, Sudhita Sen on Kerala Story, is that he certainly said in an interview that I never thought that there will be so much opposition to this film, this idea. I was really stunned. Here is a filmmaker, he is in the public, he thinks that you can get away with anything, which is absolutely ridiculous, because which means that the man, the level of the man. Even as journalists, when we write a story, we try to balance it. We think about the other side. What will be the impact? Even the political stories and any other story. We try to balance it. In creative space also, they do that. Okay, this villain is doing that. What can be the other response? It can be just that villain is always right or the hero is always right. There has to be a response. That's a human nature. People respond to things. That's how great art or even great news stories are made. When it gets balanced, everybody says, oh, it's a balanced story. Good. So that is getting lost in the whole process. Yeah, then we come back to Kerala Story. Okay, the impact wise. It is going to be competitive propaganda. Aam Aadmi Party people have already said they have earmarked 200 crores in Punjab. Because Delhi, they can't do much because of this central control. They are going to come out with their own kind of films. We don't know what is in store for us. Biopics. See, biopics were a genre for great people. Ambedkar, the people who have made some impact on the society. Now we don't know. There's going to be Veer Sarvakar, there's going to be Hedgewar, all kinds of things are going to happen. And I don't know whether opposition like Telangana government is planning or AP government is planning. So it's like it's like a political cesspool, the film as a medium is going to be. Because film so far has been entertainment medium, which everybody goes there. You know, depending on your taste, you can go to a film theater, you can see in OTT and be happy. There are all kinds of variety of stories. That will be the casualty. And Bollywood had emerged as, you know, if you notice what Nehruvian policy actually did is all other films, even in Europe, has been taken over by Hollywood films. In the usual theaters, if you go to any of the Asian countries, most of it is Hollywood films dubbed in their local languages. There's hardly any few, their own ethnic films. India is the only exception, because when India got freedom, I'm told majority of the urban theaters were showing 80% English films. Today, it's across India, it's 90% ethnic language films. That's the beauty of the Nehruvian policy. Because we encourage, as a country, we encouraged an Indian idiom in films. We have a strong Telugu film industry, we have a strong Tamil film industry, we have a strong Kannada film industry, we have a strong Hindi film industry. We have even strong Manipuri language, films, which one of it was shown in Cannes this year when it was restored. So that's the kind of thing which we had. That is recognized by the world, because in numbers, I'm told India is bigger than Hollywood, except in earnings, because they still have the world market. We have only NRI market and our market. And I was really surprised when I heard that this three idiots, or this PK movie was big hit in China. The huge hit. They made more money in China than in India. So, which means that our films are touching the world in a way, with our subjects, which are kind of presentation, everything. So this trend continues, that is going to be, I don't know, the future of that, because that needs again an open space for that. Open space and its encouragement. And of course, creative film making, you see the awards. Bahubali must be given the best entertainment award, not the best film award, because that's a differentiation we have to make. Yes, of course it's the best entertaining film, it's a lot of new thing, everything. So there is a category for that. So, but the creativity, you don't give the best novel award to, the popular novel. It is something creatively different, new. So that is what, it's not happening now. If you look at over the last 9 years or so. So what will happen is that what that Israeli filmmaker said, that's the biggest certificate for Indian film industry. That from where we are at the top, Indian Goan Film Festival is as good as Cannes or Venice or anywhere. But are we going to be there next few years if this continues? That's a question we all have to ask. So, coming back to Kerala story, I'll say this is the latest in the propaganda film category, and Kashmir Files, man has announced Delhi Files. I'm sure it will happen before 2024, the end of the year they will release it. Again, counter propaganda. Aam Aadmi Party is again already planning some of this stuff. The casualty is going to be film as an entertainment. We all can choose a film, and when they are free, we can go and see a film on OTT or on the theaters. Which now, I think, at least in our generation, people will say, do we need to go there and sit there for this? So that question will come. And of course, the creativity in films. There won't be any Satyajit Ray, there won't be any Adur Gopalakrishnan, there won't be any major names like, even Sam Benigals. Find it very difficult to get producers in this kind of atmosphere. You know, I want to flag this. You have heard about the Kerala story, but this is a film which is being made before the Kerala story was even announced or conceived. This is my friend Siddiq. He is from Kranganur. It says U.S. truly Sridharan. This is about a Hindu lower caste family, the kids being brought up by a Muslim household in Malappuram, where the Sangha Parivar calls the Malappuram district as Pakistan of India, because it's 80% Muslims. It happened there. We previewed it last week, in fact last month, 19th of May, in Delhi. Just to showcase that, look, there are real Kerala story. The filmmaker said, look, it's not a counter to anything. This was happening, and I make such films. I look for such subjects and make films on it. And everybody came. There's a lot of media mentions about it. A lot of people were crying because the way in fact, I insisted that Sridharan, the man who's now 47, he must be there. Even he was crying because this is his life story. And people were stunned. And here is the man who's brought up by a Muslim household, and they never converted him into Muslim or anything. In fact, he says that he asked his mother, the Muslim foster mother, why can't I be a Muslim like my foster brothers? So she looked at him and said, do you have any problem so far without being a Muslim? So you be what you are. And the marriages of two girls and the boy was conducted in that house. So this is what the original Kerala story is. That one is a build-up. It always happens. The propaganda and the reality are always totally different. So we showcased it. We are trying to push it to OTT platforms so that everybody can see it. I know it's small films, so it doesn't have the budget to release it or across India, subtitle, dub and all. So it's a big budget project. So that's what the real Kerala story is. And I think that's a meaningful way of countering propaganda films. Not just, talking about it. You encourage creative people to make real happening films so that they come out with ideas. We don't need to tell them. It's not proposed by anybody. The filmmaker felt after the Facebook post by Sridharan that this deserves to be made into a film. This is my kind of film. So he made it. And he also said that, look, I'm not saying that everything is hunky-dory in Kerala, but there is this possibility also happening there. This is also happening there. It's not that 3 girls have joined IS gang. There are families living together for this thing. I think this is a story of entire India, not just Kerala. We are all staying here for generations and centuries. Our forefathers have been here. And there are religions and there's upheavals and everything. So do we need to be carried away by propaganda on one side of the propaganda, or do we need to be looking at what happened in the past? There are exceptions, both sides. Not just one side, both sides there are exceptions. But our effort is to look at, as journalists and media education people, look at both sides and come to conclusions. And also help people, our readers, our viewers, to arrive at the right conclusions, not the wrong conclusions. And as journalists, we might have our views, but we always try to balance it with the counter view, the prevailing, so that we are nearer to the truth than falsehood and propaganda. That's what we were taught. I was discussing with Amarji that I was taught. My director in the IMC was Sharda Prasad in 1980. He was advisor to PM, but he was a Gandhian. He never told us to draw the Mrs. Gandhi line or something. In the class also, he will talk about everything else. No government, no politics, nothing. He was a Gandhian. So that's the generation which trained some of us, and I'm sure we'll carry forward that legacy. I just want to, I hope I can play this. This is the greatest of speeches of the greatest of propaganda films. Can you help this with this? I want to play this small 2 minutes video of Chaplin talking about propaganda and humanity. I hope I can play this. I think there's a technology problem there. Okay. So I leave it to questions and but I'm sure most of you have seen that speech of Chaplin.
Friends, I really thank Mr. Cherian for widening our thinking. The particular film, మనము ఏదో ఎమోషన్స్తో పొలిటికల్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ కాకుండా ఆరిజిన్ ఆఫ్ ఫిల్మ్స్, ప్రపగండా ఫిల్మ్స్, దిస్ ఈజ్ వన్ అమాంగ్ దెమ్ అనేది చాలా స్పష్టంగా అర్థమవుతుంది. ఫిలిం మంచి చెడులకు, క్యారెక్టర్స్కి, నెంబర్కి, ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు, ఎంతమంది పోయారు అనేది కాకుండా హౌ ది ఫిల్మ్స్ ఆర్ బీయింగ్ మేడ్, ఇండస్ట్రీ ఎట్లా తయారవుతుంది అనే దానికి చాలా స్పష్టంగా మనకు చాలా ఐ ఫీల్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఏ రియల్లీ ఐ ఓపెనర్. దిస్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఫిల్మ్స్ ఆర్ బీయింగ్ ఓన్లీ ప్రాపగండా అండ్ కమింగ్ ఫిల్మ్స్ ఆల్సో ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఏ లాస్ట్ వన్, ఇంకా వస్తాయనేది ఉంది. ఐ నౌ రిక్వెస్ట్ ఎనీబడి ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్ ఫర్ ఫ్యూ మినిట్స్. ఓకే, ప్లీజ్. సో మాజిద్, a senior journalist.
So thank you, sir. You come all the way to give a talk on Kerala. So your presentation, sir, is more on chronology of propaganda films, less on Kerala story. But see how is affecting propaganda films in the society, how it is percolating, the hatred, etc., and how to come back from this menace.
Yeah, of course, I have putting the whole Kerala story in a perspective. I didn't want to, in fact, I posted in the Facebook and WhatsApp groups. One of my friends who was close to the deep state immediately told me that, look, don't get into problems by going to decide. I said, look, this is about the media. The film is a media. I'm not going to talk about the contents of Kerala story, because that's a political content. I think I'm addressing a media group. So I look at the media portion of it. I'm not going to the pros and cons of the politics of it. That's a different subject altogether. This is the forum for the media. So the propaganda films as a media group. That's what I thought I must be doing it. Of course, it's bad. One-sided propaganda is always bad. And as a Keralite, I know that Keralites have ignored the film because it's not a reality for them. Yet there is 32,000 girls joining ISI means that every village in Kerala should have one girl joining there. Then Kerala won't be what it is today. It won't be like people won't be sitting quiet on this. And so the combined decision there is that we don't want to comment on it. We don't want to comment opposite. If somebody is making money at the expense of something, let them do it. So that's the reality, ground reality. So how do we counter it? Countering an ideology is a different again. Countering ideology is a different ball game. We all know how that process happens. It's essentially, we are still in a democracy. I'm sure that the people, what we as the media people have to do is tell them that why this is happening. This is the way it happened whenever such situations arose. And this is the way to go about it. When propaganda films of Nazi films or Soviet films were excellent, some of them were excellent, and professionally done. Where are they now? Whether it is Soviet Union or the Nazis, they are part of history. So that we just have to showcase this aspect of it. We don't need to say particularly this. I think the combined wisdom of people, humanity is much greater than what you and I can imagine, I think. That's how I have friends, senior friends who has told me that when emergency was lifted, Mrs. Gandhi was defeated. One of them who was a Gnostic said, today onwards I believe in God because I never thought emergency will end. We are post-emergency people sitting after so many years. So I will say that don't underestimate the combined intelligence of the human people, poor, rich, all of them. Leave it to them, show them this is what it is. They will decide.
Nandiraj garu, you raised your Leda? Backside, introduce yourself then.
Mr. Cherian, this is one of the wonderful. My name is Jaydev. I work with Sakshi. Sir, the emergence of film society movement has done a great job in India. But what is the relevance of film society movement now?
Yeah, if you see my revised edition of the book is coming. If you ask the relevance is simple. If you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be a writer, what do? You read books. If you want to be a novelist, read all novels possible, so that you know what is how to write a novel. It comes through reading. Nobody teaches you how to write a novel. Same thing in films. You need to see films, how people have gone about various subjects, various aspects of life, various aspects of history, various aspects of even propaganda, so that you can make it. So that's what film societies used to do. It was exclusive then. Today it's available. You can download anything. But there are online groups discussing, across the world. That's what I found. There are online groups. I am part of an online group which was formed film academics across India. They you know what they do? They send you a link of one of the films in a week, and on a Saturday evening from 9 till 11 we are all discussing it. So what is it shows that people are seeing and discussing various aspects of it, because once the creative work is put for the public. People with, all of us have different orientations, different exposure to various things. So we respond in a different ways. So how do we come to a common conclusion, okay, what I am thinking is the right thing, because few others are also thinking the same thing. So that is what the discussions film societies used to do. So which means that what is a good film? Ultimately the question comes to that. With all these discussions emerges, okay, if you have all these things, this is a good film. Which is still happening online, but not in the old conventional way.
Thank you. Satyavati, senior journalist.
So thank you. Nice. You have touched a subject. And like everybody else, I thought you will go more in detail into the Kerala story. But your talk is more at any point of time. Just like a journalism, any filmmaker makes a film, whatever the film, with absolute freedom. More freedom than any other this thing. So, as you said, I thought you will give some suggestions. How can we actually confront these this kind of propaganda films? But one solution that I think is that the film education among the people and the film society's movement has to be more strengthened. As you see, over the years, last 10 years, once upon a time, this film society's movement was very strong. More educated, film educated people we could see around. But now it is not there. So that is one thing. And as you said, I think we have to ignore people in a democracy. They will immediately ignore such kind of propaganda films. But I think governments should not, as you said, government should not give awards or stop financing. That is one of the solutions. So this thing is, can we have some movement like in how they do in Iran? Iran, they're supposed to, the government finances the films. You see, in India, as long as some private people put in 200 crores, 1000 crores, I think we can't say anything because it is a freedom of that filmmaker. Can we have some kind of this Iran kind of model here where the government doesn't have control of the films they make?
Yeah.
That is my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
In fact, to answer your question straight, government still have a control. If Central Board of Film Certification wants to end the propaganda film category, they can do it today, also yesterday. They don't give censorship. They just don't, they tell them as a look, this is one-sided story, go and shoot the other side and come back. Just that. In fact, you see, if you look at the history of Indian censorship in India, in 1918, during the British time, there was a committee by Tamil lawyer called Rangacharya. In fact, for the book, I had to go through all this documentation. So, he has recommended this film is he said the film field as of now is dominated by anti-social elements and black marketeers and, not so cultural people. So this has to be strictly regulated centrally. That's why even today the film censor board is a central subject, not a state. They are not given it to state. Entertainment tax is state. Central censor board is central. Because it was seen as a crass commercial activity. He has written it very this thing in that report. That's why the British never encourage Indian films also that way. So it is not that we don't need to have a Iranian kind of government. We need censor board to act sensibly. Just that, democratically.
Now, Somsekhar, one of our senior colleagues.
Cherian, thanks for giving a historical rundown on film. I am not a film buff, frankly. But, my question is, do you think the propaganda film genre is a corollary of rewriting of history by the government or, whatever? And is propaganda, political or otherwise, the need of Indian cinema which has not been addressed? For example, if you look at the German Hitlerian time, the propaganda film was at its peak with Goebbels. And then you look at Western cinema, Hollywood. Now, I saw a lot of films. I am a great fan of Second World War films. But as a critic, I learned that there are a lot of propaganda. In every film, the West defeats Germany, or the West defeats the black, or the Vietnam War. So it's all propaganda in a way, very subtly done, because the theatrics and filmmaking was good. We were taken in saying excellent cinema. Now, even in India, like N.T. Ramarao was the chief minister, Krishna, who was a political opponent, made a film on NTR, criticizing and all that. So there is in this country for this cinema, and we will see a lot. And my last point is, if you have seen Ertugrul, character is a takeoff from the
And as long as this, they are in power. Let's say tomorrow the power in Delhi changes, the whole thing will be different. Though there's an attempt to make it like that. So that's the whole thing. And one more thing on coming back to your question. Do we decipher a lengthy WhatsApp which we get every day? That's why I didn't decipher Kerala story much. Because we don't, see, all the critic friends say that it's a lengthy WhatsApp in a film.